Hola, ¿cómo estás? Estoy muy contento de estar aquí. El día de hoy vamos a ver un video de Robert Kiyosaki, Andy Turner y el señor McGregor, que sin duda nos va a ayudar a ver muchísimas cosas. Ellos hicieron este programa en diciembre del año pasado para las predicciones de 2021 y son más frescas, están más frescas que nunca. Recuerda que puedes poner los subtítulos en español y por favor, sobre todo, disfrútalo, apréndelo, es lo más importante. Esto va a cambiar tu vida si tienes la apertura de escuchar nuevas opciones. Disfrútalo.
The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
You guys know anybody who's been hurt financially, like closed businesses down?
Oh, it's been, particularly those that congregate, right? Obviously. And the ones I feel bad for are some of my favorite restaurants, around, aren't going to be around anymore. And there's been others, there was a coffee shop that basically put on Facebook and said, look, if we don't have a good month, we're gone. And the line of cars was clear down the road, so people rallied to save the business. But, it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds for sure.
Yeah, for me personally, I know several friends that are business owners, particularly restaurant owners, not only locally, but Robert, in our home state of Hawaii, that have shut their doors for good. And they'll never come back. Sadly, I've had numerous calls from former classmates saying, I can't live here anymore. I got to get out. Where would you recommend me moving to?
You're from Hawaii?
So, pardon me?
From Hawaii or California?
From Hawaii. Yeah. And then also we're seeing a mass exodus out of California to places like Idaho, Texas, Florida. There's rarely a day that goes by that I don't meet somebody, a new person at my gym that is talking about Idaho of all places. Leaving California to move to Idaho. So yeah, it's really affected a lot of people, a lot of close people that I know.
Good. All right. So, hate to say good, but hate to say this, people were warned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To sit there, and the reason this is a very important show, to sit there and hope the economy comes back. I mean, you may as well go see a proctologist, because this one changed everything. And so if I could toot my own horn, that's why I wrote Rich Dad's Prophecy. I said the biggest crash was coming in 2016, and I was 4 years off. And so today we're sitting, and that's when I was on Wolf Blitzer's show on CNN, the Communist News Network. And just, they don't like what we have to say. But anyway, so Rich Dad is a capitalist show, and we're not socialists or communists. So it's a very big different show. And I think people are deserting the Communist Republic of Hawaii and California and New York in droves right now. And so same with Washington and Oregon. So it's a very different time. So with that said, Andy, why did you write the book, Stock Market Cash Flow and 401 Chaos? I mean, what was your motivation for doing it? Because it's a lot of work to write a book.
Yeah, especially for me, Robert, because I don't spell. But well, starting with 401ks, I just feel that, to be blunt, people with 401ks are going to get screwed. And as you often say, there are three sides to every coin. There's heads, there's tails, and intelligence is found when you can come to the edge, because that's where I can see both sides. And all 401ks is the other side. You have Wall Street. What do they get out of it? What is their vision of 401k? How do they see it? You have the tax ramifications, and you have the employer who gets a great break when he can just cut you off and say goodbye. So all that book is the other side of the coin, so people can walk into that with their eyes a little bit more wide open. As far as stock market cash flow goes, I think that so many people want to buy low and sell high and think that investing in paper assets is about trying to time the market. And they don't understand that much like a real estate investor could be a flipper, well, a stock market guy could be a trader. But a cash flow real estate investor is going to get money on a monthly basis and in a consistent amount. And that's possible in the stock market as well. So that's why we wrote that book. You mentioned, you don't like to say we told you so, but we told you so. And I'll tell you, Robert, one thing about 2020 that I thought was interesting is we had so many Johnny-come-latelys. So many people all of a sudden when things got bad. Well, now I want to get educated. Now I want to get educated. And then the government props things back up and says, we're going to send you a check. They go, oh, I guess I don't need to be educated now. I'm just telling you, I believe strongly that, we'll have another rise in the market as we stimulate. But I also will tell you that this market doesn't reflect the true value that's behind it. It's detached from what we call fundamentals. It's just detached from reality. And so it's not going to last forever. I don't know when it'll go, but the time to be educated isn't going to be, you don't put your seatbelt on during the car wreck. And so we had a lot of Johnny-come-latelys wanting to get educated for a while. And then it was like, oh, government's going to take care of us. I guess I don't need to know this. No, people, well, it's their choice. They can choose to learn or not, but don't be a Johnny-come-lately, right? Get it done now. That's my biggest message.
And I think that's why John McGregor is a certified financial planner with over 25 years. He's also trained financial planners. And the reason he's an advisor, plus he's a good friend, rugby player. But the top 10 reasons why the rich go broke is people are not ready for changes, are they, John? I mean, they think everything's going to be the same as yesterday.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Tomorrow,
Everyone just.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, everyone thinks everything will work out on its own. And I think Andy nailed it on the head. I mean, it's always after the fact. That's when people want to get educated, or that's when they want to take action. I wrote that book because of the 25 years I've been working with thousands of people and have seen just countless train wrecks. And I really focused on the wealthy because those are the alluring stories, right, that I used to tell you about, Robert. And that's what prompted me to write that book. And although the book is about why the wealthy go broke, and these are specific people that I knew, that I saw had everything, and they lost it all. This book is really about why so many people go broke and why so many people are living paycheck to paycheck and can't get out of their own way. They're stuck in their old habits and behaviors. And so that's why. And the overarching theme is learning from people's successes is smart, but learning from people's mistakes is genius. And that's what this book really is about, learning from people's mistakes. And
so you've dealt with people with money and then they lose it all. And I'm quite certain there's many people today who during 2020 who lost it all, like those small restaurant owners and things like this. So really that's why we're going to be talking about what you see in the future. But I think the biggest lesson I have for people listening to this is don't think 2021 will be like 2020, because it's going to be changing so rapidly from here. And I think that's the secret to success. So with that, we're going to be talking about, let's start with Andy. Like with me, I sit there and I don't trust the Fed because they're a bunch of academic, radical left liberals, like Bernanke and those guys are college professors, and same as Janet Yellen. Well, so does Biden, and so is Clinton, and so is Obama, and they see the world differently because they went to great schools. Yeah. And they're out of touch with the guy on the street. That's the biggest problem with them. And as my rich dad always said, the trouble with the Fed is they take from the poor and they give to the rich. And that's what's happening today. They take money from the poor via taxes, inflation, and all this, and they print money and they jack it into the stock market. So everybody's sitting there fat, dumb, and happy with the stock market going up. But meanwhile, the gap between rich and poor gets exceedingly wider. And if there's another crash, the guys like Andy and John will get out early, but the poor and middle class will be left holding the bag as they always do. Any comments on that, Andy and John?
Well, I would say I couldn't agree more with the Fed being out of touch. I think the Fed is back then, they painted themselves into a corner. I don't think they have much choice with what they can do or can't do. I think they have to print. You look at, it really the Fed, I think it's important to study history, right? And as you look at the Fed and how it came about and is developed, really changed with long-term capital management. When they were going under, they said, hey, we're going to go under, and our liability is supposed to be another person's asset. So when we go down, Bear Stearns goes down, there's a domino effect. And that was a blow to capitalism, in my opinion, because they said, well, for the greater good of society, we can't let these big rich guys fail, so let's pump money into them. Capitalism is about having a little pain once in a while. Guys are going to succeed, guys are going to fail. That's part of the system. So as soon as they went from just buying bonds, government bonds, to bailing out private banks, that really changed. And the Fed at that point, they opened up a can of worms where, when you think about it, Robert, if you're a bank, aren't you going to go max leverage to make as much money as you possibly can if you know that if you fail, they'll just buy those assets from you? I would go crazy if I was a Wall Street institution. I'd lever up as much as I could because they're going to bail me out.
Well, that's the game. Like I said, the Fed has one game, which is to take from the poor and give to the rich. Now the education system is part of that process. That's why there's no financial education in our schools. So we're going to go to break, but when we come back, we're going to John, and we'll be talking more about what you see, what you can do, because I'm more optimistic about the future. We made so much money this year, but we're prepared for it. Of course, I'm not in the stock market. I don't have stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. So, John, what do you see, John McGregor, what do you see coming for 2021? What are you excited about? What are you concerned about?
Well, I'm excited for it, and I'm anxious to get into it. And I'm just worried about so many of the other people that aren't, that are just sitting on the couch hoping that things are going to work out for them. And the Johnny come latelys, as Andy talks about. So I think if you're proactive and you're willing to learn and educate yourself, there's a myriad of opportunities for you, regardless of who's in the Oval Office. I mean, I look at my 90-year-old father, and he is knee deep in Andy Tanner's options class, and he's killing it in options. He's making $10,000 to $15,000 a month trading options. It's a 90-year-old, and he's doing it for fun. Not that he needs the money; it's more of a hobby for him. But there's a perfect example of something that somebody can be doing right now.
So, Andy, what are you excited about 2021 for? I mean, besides John's father doing your options course.
That's pretty impressive, age 90. My dad's 83, and he wants nothing to do with anything I say. So that's pretty good, John. Yeah, I look at, Robert, one of the blessings I've had from hanging out with the advisor team, yourself, Kim, and John, is my context has shifted tremendously. And it really becomes clear to me where most people's context is very, very different. For example, two things. A lot of people think that success in the stock market is about your ability to predict the future and say, well, Andy, what's your prediction? Is it going up or going down? And my answer to that is, well, I don't know and I don't care. So it's a totally different context. Another thing I've learned is people think that success is a function of the investment rather than the investor. In other words, they'll say, well, Andy, should I buy stocks or should I buy real estate, or is gold better? Is this? And it's really not about that. I can find failure in real estate, business, commodities, gold, Bitcoin. I can find success. So if you look at, Richard Branson in business, or Kenny McElroy in real estate, or Warren Buffett in stocks, I see that success as being a function of the investor rather than investment. And when we've done the Rich Dad radio show, invariably people write in and ask for advice all the time. And if I say, well, go buy gold, you didn't learn anything. If I say, don't buy gold, you didn't learn anything. If I say, well, gold is fungible, well, now we start learning something about gold. So when people say, should I invest in stocks or not? I say, well, are you good at investing in stocks? Because if you're not educated, you're going to suffer. I would just say this. The stock market to me is a machine that transfers money from the uneducated to the educated. End of story.
All right, that sounds good to me. John, what do you want to say to people about that? But the reason I talk about paper assets as a category is because paper assets are liquid and real estate is not. Gold, silver, Bitcoin are liquid. Real estate is not. Businesses are not liquid. And so when somebody says, well, should I jump into real estate? I go, you got to be an idiot. Stay with your 401k. So I'm not against the 401k. I'm not against stocks, bonds, mutual funds. But it's exactly as Andy says. If you're an idiot, you're going to lose your money. And I don't care what asset class you're in.
Robert, you just made a really important point about liquidity. Warren Buffett owned Delta Airlines and he owned Fruit of the Loom underwear. One is traded, one is not. He woke up one day after COVID and said, I'm done, and sold all his airlines in one day. Gone, liquid, out. If he wanted to sell Fruit of the Loom, he wouldn't be able to do that because it's not a traded business. And then the other point you made that's really important about paper assets is paper is the most widely held asset class by the average person because of 401ks and IRAs and stuff like that. I would say, and I don't have data to back it up, but it'd be my opinion that there is no asset class that people are more involved in with less education than paper assets. If I find a real estate guy, if he's been around a few years, he probably has to know something or he'd been wiped out long ago. So the reason this program's important is, does it make sense to you and to your spirit to say, should I invest my money in something I don't understand? You know, if the answer to that is no, well, then start to understand or get out and invest in something else.
Correct. And then this plug my book here is called Who Stole My Pension? Came out in January of 2020, and that's going to be the next crash, is when people find out that Wall Street, the Fed, and the Treasury ripped them off through the shadow banking system. Anyway, John, what do you have to say to people about investing in paper assets?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's my thing. I'm a firm believer in paper assets. I also believe in real estate. I just don't know much about it, and in commodities, and I certainly have my own business, but I'm a paper assets guy, particularly because of the liquidity and the ease of being able to get in and out. I will say, Andy and I debate on the 401k topic, and I am in favor of a 401k for most people. And, but I'm willing to look at an alternative. If someone has a better idea to help people save for retirement, I'm all ears. But right now, that's the system we have. And I'd much rather have a 401k today than a pension. At least I can see my money. I can roll it out. It's a lot cheaper than a 401k. I do have the ability to manage it a little bit myself. So for those reasons, I encourage people who aren't willing to educate themselves, who aren't willing to be proactive, to at least take advantage of that. In many cases, you're getting free money from your employer. So, the average balance, if I just looked it up today, the average balance in a 401k plan is $100,000. That's not great. But if it wasn't for a 401k, the average savings for an individual would be zero, would be goose egg if there was no 401k. So anyway, that's my.
So that's why we have Andy with his book called 401 Chaos. What warnings? I mean, there's not a right or wrong, as Andy talks about. There's three sides of a coin: heads, tails, and the edge of the coin. You got to see both sides. So with the person sitting there with 100K inside their 401k, 100,000 in the 401k, what risk do you see for them, Andy?
Well, if you want to look, I think one of the big mistakes people make, Robert, is they see a pension and a 401k as similar, and they could not be more different. If you read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, on about page 37 is where your life changes, where you see a financial statement drawn out in a picture. That's where that book changed my life. I was like, okay, now I understand how this works. Well, if you look at a financial statement, a pension is a function of the income statement. A 401k is a function of the balance sheet. So a pension is about income from a company that lasts you for the rest of your life if it's solvent. A 401k is a function of net worth, where you're building something in your asset column, supposedly, but it's really in Wall Street's asset column, assets under management. So even that shift from pensions to 401ks, think about that. You took a fundamental shift from a function of cash flow to a function of net worth, and no one even freaking knew the difference. So if you're going to be in a 401k, John says the average balance is 100,000, but the median is 70. Robert, that means half the people in those things. I mean, the bottom half, that's a year's worth of money. So you're going to go from 65 to 90 with 70 grand. And if the market crashes and cuts in half, now you got $35,000. So the issue I have with a 401k is, if you're expecting to retire with dignity in a 401k, well, read somebody's book, mine or somebody's. But I'm just saying the data says that Look, when I went to school, I got about half the answers right, and I got an F anyway. If you only do half as well, you get an F in school. If half the people have 70 grand, that's a failed program. Now, if you're an executive that makes $1 million a year and you pack it away in your 401k, you might have something. But for the average guy that's probably listening to this that wants to do better, you name one person in this world that said, I was poor and broke, I put my money in a 401k and now I'm rich. I just don't think that happens.
All right.
I haven't found it.
Tell that to the United Mine Workers, 86,000 retirees whose plan is going to be insolvent in 3 years. That's a pension plan.
I wouldn't disagree with that. You know,
Tell that to Iron Workers Local 17 in Ohio. They just reduced their benefits by 30%. And then you're going to say, well, they've got the PBGC, which is the insurance. That's insolvent in 2 years. So here's the example, Andy. Put $15,000 into a 401k, and the average return in the stock market has been 10%, roughly. Let's call it, let's give them an 8% rate of return over 30 years.
What?
That's $1.8 million.
Well,
so
John,
I mean,
you sound like a fucking financial planner right now.
well, I would much rather have a 401k where I know I see the money, rather than some hope and promise that, hey, John, if you stick with us for 30 years, you're going to get 80% of your salary. You're going to get $5,000 a month for the rest of your life. Maybe we think. And now we know these pensions are blowing up.
Let me step in here. A pension is called a defined benefit pension, and a 401k is a defined contribution. Yeah. It's exactly as Andy says, they're opposite. They really are different things. And you know, when I got out of the Marine Corps, my classmates went to fly for a little company called United Airlines. And in 2005, Wall Street ripped off their pension.
Yep.
So that's why I wrote this book here, Who Stole My Pension? And so before we end, I want to say this much, is because being a hardcore perma-bear pessimist on the stock market, the reason I'm not in it, is my guys who are, they're saying the biggest crash is still coming in the stock market. So if you're sitting there with a pension and you're sitting with a 401k, and I think it's Schiff and who's the other guy, they're saying by April there's going to be this crash because you can't keep pumping fake money. Remember, the Fed takes money from the poor and gives it to the rich. And so the rich is the stock market. So everybody's floating around happy as Larry, you know, with the stock market going higher than higher. But the pessimists like me are saying it can't last forever. So I just want to know, I mean, you guys, John, will you guarantee 8% every year on the stock market?
Oh, absolutely not. No way.
Andy, would you?
No.
So that's the point. That's the point. You see, as a person who invests in real estate and in businesses and gold, silver, and Bitcoin, I control my returns. The reason I'm not in the stock market is I don't have much control. Andy gives more control by trading options and all that,
Yep.
like your dad does. And John does the same thing, right, John? I mean, you
Yeah,
don't sit there.
I trade options, yeah.
Yeah,
Robert, you hit it on
John,
the
you don't sit there and diversify and hope for the long term, do you?
That's right.
No.
That's
No,
right.
so that's the point.
Yes.
Yep.
You hit on the head. I would not be involved in stocks without options. That'd be like buying a house with no insurance. I wouldn't do it.
Or driving a car without insurance.
Absolutely. Look, an option is a guarantee. That's where you get your guarantee from. I can sell at any price I want or buy at any price I want if I have the option to do so. And I can't imagine being involved in stocks without options any more than my real estate would have no insurance.
Correct. John, what do you want to say about buy, hold, and pray for the long term for 30 years in a 401k?
Well, that's the old buy, hold, and hope, right? You know, that is not an investment strategy. I don't believe. I mean,
but that's what financial planners teach.
That's true. That's true. Because they're buy and hold. They're buy and hold. They don't have a buy, hold, and sell strategy or an option or insurance strategy like Andy's talking about. Totally agree.
Well,
anyway, so we're a financial education company. I just wanted to make sure there was a differences for you guys. The advantage of stocks, paper assets, is they're liquid. It's also the disadvantage. And so if you know the disadvantage, then there's things you can do, which is what Andy teaches, which is options, which is what John does, which is options. It's called insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And if you understand that, you might have a prayer. You might actually make more money off of options than you do from the stock if you know what you're doing. I took options trading for 3 years, and my brain, I'm a real estate guy. I'm very slow. I don't understand it. So with that said, final words, 30 seconds, Andy, final words for anybody who loves paper assets.
If you own paper assets, you can look at it two ways. You can say, I'm either owning a business or I'm trading a stock. If you want to do it like Buffett does, own the business, understands its financials, understand the balance sheet, understand the income statement, understand the debt, understand the assets and liabilities. Then you're a true business owner, with the advantage of if you don't like what you see anymore, you can leave with liquidity. But if you're just trading a stock, look, Warren Buffett wants people to buy cans of Coca-Cola so he can get a dividend. In the same way Robert would invest in Kenny to share in the rents, Buffett buys Coca-Cola to share in the profits from cola drinks. He has no interest in the price of Coca-Cola stock going up and down. He owns a business, not a stock. If you're in paper assets, treat it like owning a business, not a stock.
Thank you. And with that, John McGregor, who says you should own a stock, not a business. No, I'm only kidding.
Oh, no. Let me be clear. When I take ownership in a company, I buy that stock. I believe in that company. I'm a owner of that company. That's how I view that purchase of that investment.
So if you consider yourself, you can buy a share of Coca-Cola, you're the owner of that company.
I am a part owner of Coca-Cola. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's talking about is you own a share of a company.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And I think we talked about this earlier. It's really the difference between someone successful in this and someone who is not is all in mindset. And Andy talked about that earlier. And that's the difference between success and failure. It's your mindset around your money. And when you treat your money and when you invest and you treat it as if you are owning that business, that's a whole different mindset than just trading a stock for a quick fix or a quick profit. It's a completely different mindset. So as we approach the end of the year, I just urge people, get educated, get involved, get proactive, whatever asset class that excites you or interests you, because I'll tell you, although we do believe the market's going to go up this coming year, the big fall is coming. I mean, the Fed just cannot continue to print money to no avail without any kind of harsh ramifications or consequences down the road. The tsunami's coming. So just prepare yourself. Now's the time to do it.